In this video, we're going to discuss how the characteristics of efficient property rights are absolutely critical to resulting in a efficient market equilibrium. And when those property rights are not satisfied, the market equilibrium will not be efficient. So let's take the simplest supply and demand curve. We got a supply curve that's a marginal cost curve and a demand curve that's a marginal willingness to pay curve. When producers see a price PM, they're going to actually want to supply the quantity QM. By the same token, when the consumers see the price PM, they're going to also want to demand the quantity QM. So QM is a nice equilibrium. It's the quantity supplied is also the quantity demanded. We're going to show how this leads to an efficient outcome in terms of maximizing producer and consumer surplus. So at the market equilibrium of QM, we know that the total benefits to the consumers are going to be the area underneath the marginal willingness to pay curve, that green area there. The good news is that the consumers don't have to pay all that amount. They only pay the price times the quantity, so they're left with a consumer surplus, which is that green upper triangle there. Producers are also happy by this outcome because they obtain now the price times the quantity is the revenue that they obtain, that they get to add to their balance sheet, but their costs are only the area underneath the marginal cost curve. So their total costs are less than their revenue, and they end up with what we call producer surplus. Producer surplus plus consumer surplus leads to the total surplus to the economy that are generated by these market transactions. And it turns out that that's the biggest surplus that you can get. Anything less and you're not going to get as much surplus. Anything more and you've got a situation where you've got surplus for part of the quantity, and then there's actually negative surplus or deficit for the remainder. Adam Smith sort of capitalized on this idea way back in 1776 when he said that, through private forces we can actually lead to a great outcome. And so I like to make Adam Smith smile by the producer surplus plus consumer surplus little triangle there. Now, how does this happen? Is it just magic? Well, it actually depends upon three critical characteristics of efficient property rights. These are transferability, enforceability, and exclusivity. Transferability means that owners can fully transfer an asset and all the associated benefits or costs to somebody else. So they can get rid of it. They can sell it. They can give it away if they want to, whatever they want to do, but they have the ability to do that. Secondly, the rights are enforceable. That is, that nobody can take the owner's rights away from him or herself without the consent of the owner. So if a producer produces something, consumers are only going to get it if they pay the producer for that good. The final characteristic is exclusivity, and that means that all the benefits and all the costs accrue only to the owners of the asset. This ends up being the most critical of the three characteristics of efficient property rights for the purposes of our class. But let's look at all three at this time. So think about first the issue of transferability. What transferability means is that producers can transfer the good to the consumers. So what does that mean? Well, it sort of means that by making a market transaction and transferring that good, surplus is created. The whole market transaction sort of paints in that triangle by creating surplus. So transferability is absolutely essential to a market transaction. If you can't sell it, then you can't create the surplus. The second characteristic is enforceability. Imagine what would happen if a producer's rights were not enforceable. That is, somebody could walk up and walk out the door with any product that a producer might have. Well, that would sort of cut into your supply, right? The supply would go away, and the market equilibrium would move from QM, where a lot of this valuable good is produced, back down to zero, because the producers would say, if I'm just going to sell or have the good stolen from me, there's no way I'm going to pay the cost to create the good. So our equilibrium is shut off if enforceability is not satisfied. The final characteristic is what we call exclusivity, and as I said, this is what we're going to focus on here. You'll remember that when we derived the triangle, the producer and consumer surplus triangles, we said that all of the benefits were captured by the area underneath the demand curve and all of the costs were captured by the area underneath the marginal cost curve. In order for the market equilibrium to yield the socially efficient quantity where producer and consumer surplus are maximized, those have to be all of the benefits and all of the costs. Otherwise, there's other stuff that's out there that's not counted. And when that happens, you end up with socially inefficient quantities, either too much or too little. So these are absolutely critical to achieving the socially efficient outcome. Only if transferability, enforceability, and exclusivity are all satisfied will the market equilibrium achieve the socially optimal outcome. And that's why Adam Smith is happy. So that's all we have for this video, and we'll look at some specific examples in class.